And we do have separate groups that listen to us too. So, oh, hang on, I got to start the show. Here we go.
All right. I got a couple things to talk about.
All right. I think we're ready to go. Okay. Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to the Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio Show. I'm Derek Asklar. Mr. Craig Talley just got on the line too, and we'll be hosting the show tonight. So I started it up a little bit early, Craig, so they got a little bit of a conversation. Hit the wrong button. I was like, oh God, we got to go live. Anyways, this has been a long day for the most part, but good day, but long day. Me and my wife were over in Orlando most of the day today, well, yesterday and today both. For the VFW Veteran Forum Wars auxiliary and post meetings and stuff like that, going over all kinds of new stuff and fun stuff and everything else. So we had a pretty good time and hung out with a bunch of people. It gives us a chance to see a lot of the people from around the state of Florida, anyways, from different posts that you wouldn't normally get to see very often. You know, obviously I don't go to, down to the Florida Keys or anything, and we have a post down there, or we don't, but, there is a post down there, and people from Tallahassee and everything else. So it was nice meeting everybody again, seeing everybody again. And got a lot done, but we had fun doing it. So that's why I just literally pulled in Craig about 7:15 tonight. So I was trying to get everything fired up, and Craig was on the line, and I hit the wrong button. So it happens once in a while. But if you're just starting out listening to us here, or just caught us on Spreaker and wanted to check it out, you can call in live at 352-504-4170. We're kind of having open lines tonight. And or you can get on to chat just by going to Spreaker.com, go to Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio, and you can click the little comment button right there, and you can get in on chat. We already have Jason and Gavin on here tonight. Earl's on. I see Earl from Virginia put a capital L in there now, so I don't mess up his name anymore. Larry Stewart's on tonight too. Welcome, guys. And I'm sure the rest of the crowd will be heading in here after a little bit here. But, Craig, I didn't get out detecting at all, obviously, because I had to run Monday or Friday morning. We just got back and everything. I do have plans to go out this week. I want to do the VFW post property. I'm going to try to take out I'm going to take the Bliss tool with me, but I want to take the Quest Pro out there. I found some more stuff out about working with them buttons on there. And, I haven't got I talked about a little bit about the deep. It's deep discrimination, I'm assuming, is what it stands as, deep disc. It's not on the regular menu screen on that, but I think I'm lowering it down, Craig, because I'm going by like it does on the Bliss tool with the discrimination depth. As you move that down a little bit more, I don't need to run it so high on the Bliss tool. I can run it down like 7.75 or something like that, and it's actually giving me more depth, or opening the machine up a little bit more. So I want to try to work with this Quest Pro the same kind of way. I have my discrimination, the actual discrimination that you put on there and knock out stuff and everything, but it has that deep disc, and I can't really find anything about it. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right spot or whatever. It's not in the manual, and I haven't been able to find it out online. I just happened to cross this by accident. I was holding down one button. I was actually trying to change the mode on the machine from coin to jewelry, and I hit a different, and I can't remember what button it is right now off the top of my head, but I hit both of them at the same time, and it went to this deep scan. I thought I was going to be on sensitivity and move it up, and I moved it up to 75. I was still hitting a 10-inch dime with it, which, was really good. With any metal detector anymore, if you can hit over 8.5, 9 inches, you're doing pretty good on a dime-sized target. But having it that high, I figured if I back it down to like, that's the problem, Craig. I can't remember where it was because I wasn't expecting to hit that screen, so I jack that thing all the way up, and well, I may be hindering the machine more. You know what I mean? I got to figure out where to have that set out to give it the best chance or best performance, I guess you could say, and go that route. But I wanted to take it over there. They have these old horseshoe pits, and they've probably been in since I think the 70s, Pauline, am I right? Yeah, 70s anyways. But they've been up. These are like professional they made them professional. I mean, they had people out there all the time playing horseshoes. Well, nobody's done it in the 3 years I've been at this post. And they've actually tore up they had like 7 or 8 horseshoe pits, all regulation and everything, but they tore out all but 2 of them. So I can detect all that through there, and I don't know if anything got lost. I may just get into a frenzy of bottle caps and pull tabs. I have no idea. But, I can discriminate some of that stuff out and just look for the chain, kind of cherry pick it a little bit to see, what I'll be finding. If I start finding a bunch of change or something like that, even, I'll open the machine up and we'll dig a few, pull tabs. This machine's pretty good about being accurate on nickels and square tabs. Even at, I think I did a test at like 7 inches, and it was dead on what they should be. Their VDI numbers and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to work with that deep discrimination and see if I can really, if anything else, get it to unmask more, if that makes sense, Craig, or something, maybe benefit me a little bit better, and that way I can share it on to you guys. If some of you all have bought the machine, it's impressing me quite a bit. I didn't think it would, but it has some potential to it. A lot more than what I've seen in the past on some of the other machines that I've tried, traded or bought or whatever, just to try to, get more versatile as far as with machines. I'm actually kind of thinking about maybe possibly buying a couple more. I think I want to get an Equinox, and I'm kind of looking. There's a couple foreign machines that really aren't in the U.S. yet. Craig always searches them out too from different countries and stuff like that. But I'm trying to remember the name of it now. But I saw one the other day, and I'm not really sure what to expect out of it. It just looked like it was technical enough, or had enough adjustment room on it, on the knobs and stuff like that. The way it was set up. It's an analog machine, and it's also it doesn't have a screen. So I figured I'd give it a try. But the one thing that turned me on to it was that it wasn't full resonant sound or anything like that. So that's a good positive. A lot of the VLFs out prior to, I guess, about 2 years ago, a lot of them have partial resonance. When you have a full resonance machine, like the Gold Mask is an example, they work reasonably well, but if you get them near mineralized ground and stuff, you start having a lot of problems with them, and you're not getting really a lot of depth. They still work and they still find you something. I'm just using it because that's the first machine that came to my head that uses full resonance. A lot of the U.S. machines are using partial, like the E-Trax, I believe the AT Pro. It's a common. This is internal too, guys. This is not like something you can adjust or anything. It's more technical than I can kind of explain. But at any rate, that was one of the major reasons why I think we were getting a lot of depth, and it had, the Blisstal does so well, is because we're not using any resonance at all. And I'm not sure if that's a proper term for it, but it's in the circuitry and the way they have it wired and the way it's designed. But yeah, when I come across a machine that isn't running any, that interests me only because it has the possibilities of having, I believe, more nuance in the tones and signals and stuff like that. And I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing that in the Quest Pro a lot on the nuances of the tones. So yeah, I'm going to be giving a lot of these a shot. I'm going to pick up a couple other machines too. I get real into all this kind of thing, trying to see what makes them tick and how to make them work better, regardless of what machine it is. So I do this a lot. Craig, I know you've done it over the years too, because you've had so many machines. You have to be into that side of it too. Just making it work better. It's fun for me. I don't know. I think it is for you too. But You said you had something to talk about too, and Craig and I didn't even have a chance to talk before the show, really. But you were something you wanted to bring up, and I did. I'll let you go ahead and do that now if you want to. And
this is my. I've been in Middletown for a little over a year, and last year we had this thing called the Crawl, and today we had it. It's a 43-mile long, basically flea market, and goes from Stevens City all the way to Stanton, and they even sell places on the lawns out. Different businesses will take their parking lot and put up booths for people. And this one Wayfair Inn was charging $100 a booth, to show your goods.
Right.
But anyway, I'm right on Main Street, so I was about the only house that didn't have stuff out, and all these people, all my neighbors were saying, "You ought to sell your bullets," and I don't like selling my treasures,
Yeah.
I really don't need the money, so why should I sell it? I don't know. That's just the way. I've never been into selling my stuff, in the beginning. A lot of this stuff is getting harder to find.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But anyway, I was going to go next door to my neighbors to check out their stuff because I'd bought a few things from them the year before, and I ended up buying a few things this time. But the guy across the street from me, his house, he said was from 1800. And I found that was actually 1794, I believe. And he's got a 1740 cabin in the back that's kind of like falling in on itself. But
yeah.
And so I know his wife a little bit, and she wants me to hunt the yard, but the guy she says my husband doesn't probably won't let you, and but I'll help, so anyway, this has been going on for about 8 months, and
wow.
He one day he saw me and he came running over and started talking to me about metal detecting, and I told him, I said, your yard has a lot of potential,
right?
And I found a lot of stuff in this yard, the history around here.
Mm-hmm.
Your house is from 1700s, and so I said it's also a blacksmith shop, and there's rumors it was a hospital either there or next door during the Civil War. So, but anyway, then another time he came over and he wanted to know, he's thinking about buying this $150 metal detector, and I said, look, don't waste your time. I said, I got, top-of-the-line machines. I can, you can borrow one. I can help you.
Yeah.
Whatever. I said, I'm not really into, if I hunt your yard, you can take whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
I just like doing it, and I want to film it, and I want to, video it, and do photos of the stuff that's found for my channel anyway. So, but anyway, and I said, don't spend $150 on a metal detector. You're just throwing your money away. It's junk. It's not going to work.
Right.
So anyway, I'm walking down, and the guy starts running across the street going, Greg. So he goes, I just wanted to ask you a question. And he said, you want to come over next Wednesday and metal detect my yard, and show me how to do it and stuff and see what's there? And I said, yeah, sure. And he said, is it better to do it before or after rain? And I said, after rain, it,
helps out.
When it's dry, it makes,
it's better, better conductor and stuff like that too, with the moisture in the ground.
Yeah. So I was sitting there going, man, this is crazy, All of a sudden he's, asking me if I want to come over. It's kind of weird, I was thinking. Well, then he goes, yeah, I saw this YouTube video. You were finding all kinds of stuff. You found all that in that yard over there? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, man. He says, you think I can find coins and stuff here? And I go, yeah,
Yeah.
I found Indian heads, wheat pennies, mercury dime, Sheet of Liberty quarter, real, stuff like that. So, I said, there's no telling what's in your yard.
Yeah.
And so I realized that video is the one that did it. That's the one that got his attention when he saw what I was finding.
Mm-hmm.
But that was pretty funny. But anyway, I went around. Last year, I kind of used the crawl to just walk around and meet neighbors and stuff, and I'd tell them, hey, I live over there. And so this year, I was telling people I met, hey, I live over there, and I'm finding all kinds of Civil War stuff with my metal detector, just putting it out there to see. And so I went down to this. I was talking to this one guy I've known for about a year down there, and then I noticed next to him, there's an abandoned. Well, the property is the house is dilapidated. It's just
falling apart.
It needs to be knocked down, but it's too expensive to knock it down to sell the property. And,
yeah, you want to sell it with I don't care if it's a junk house. You sell the property with a house on it only because you can. It's usually worth more, believe it or not. Anyways, down here it is. Go ahead.
Well, this thing there's trees growing through it.
Oh, wow!
There's like termite. It's covered in termites.
Oh my God!
There's vines growing up through the up through the attic, going up, up under the eaves and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the place is it's terrible.
Trashed. Yeah.
But it's a big property. It's probably, I'd say, a half acre maybe. Right on Main Street there. But anyway, this guy, I guess he knew the guy that owns the property, and so he'd made these he'd taken pieces of wood and I guess glued them together, and then he painted American and Confederate flags on them. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a rustic look to it. And so when I got there was all these American ones, big ones, and then there were smaller ones. And so I only saw two Confederate small ones, So I started talking to him, and it turned out he was an Alexandria police officer.
Oh.
And I think he's retired or something, or close to it or something. And, mm-hmm. and we were talking about how Alexandria changed over the years, and and I was telling him about metal detecting, and I said, I live right down the street there, and 2 houses from Nana's, and he goes, his friend came walking up, and he says, hey, you live in that white house, Nick, and you can't even see my house from there. And they go, oh, that's one of the nicest houses down this street. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
So, you don't know, what people are thinking and stuff, when you're
right.
But anyway, this guy says, he goes, right across from my house, and I don't know if it's in Alexandria or somewhere else. It might even be nearby. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But he said that across the street, a whole bunch of Civil War stuff had been found. And he said his friend, he let one guy hunt his yard, and the guy only found like one bullet or something.
Right.
And so he said, you're welcome to try that yard, And so I ended up buying 2 of the Confederate flag ones, and then I said, if you ever have any, of the bigger ones, I'll buy one. So mm-hmm. he took my name and number and everything, and he said, I'll give you a call. And so, and then his friend walked up, and he said the same thing about my house, and I was telling him about it, and he said, yeah, I got a couple friends at Metal Detect. They find all kinds of wild stuff. He goes, yeah. It's amazing how you guys know what each little thing is,
Mm-hmm.
because they all look the same to me, and these guys are going, this is from this kind of rifle and this one, and I said, that's pretty interesting that, around here, people, even that don't metal detect, they know about it.
Right.
So I may have, I got the one spot pretty much. I'm still not counting my chickens till they hatch.
Right. Yeah. Don't do what I do, man. Get your hopes up too high. You don't want to do that.
But that's pretty. It looks like it's a pretty good shot. I'll be able to go over there and do that guy's yard. But I may be able to go over to this other guy's yard too. And
yeah,
he said he knows some neighbors. Maybe he can get me into their yards too. So it's
keep it up.
I was going to say, I found out for sure that I can hunt 2 city properties, and one is probably about a 2 or 3 acre field, and they cut it for hay.
Right.
And there's some woods, and it's a couple blocks off of Route 11. So anywhere along there, it was this was closer to one of the battle lines too. So there's got to be stuff there. I think it's been hunted, but from the machines I've seen that the guys are using, there's got to be deeper stuff in these places. So I got that, and then there's another place right outside of town, and I can hunt that, and that's probably another. That must be 5 acres. Of just a regular field in a city. According to my friend next door, he's friends with several of the city council people and knows the mayor and everything. They said, "Oh yeah, any city property you can metal detect."
Oh wow!
So I said, "Cool."
You just opened up the whole door for Craig Talley. He's about to just clean up on Civil War relics right up there. Craig, you're going to start up a new town museum.
I mean, people hunt,
for a long time.
Stories. I've seen rogues jumping in people's yards already. Out across the street, that went abandoned, and within a week and a half, I saw at least 9 guys, hunting the yard without permission.
I'm just curious what you're going to find, Craig. You take that, take detector in there, and man, I tell you, the amount of, I know, from hunting with you that, most of the stuff you dig on these beat sites is all, we'll say 9+ inches down, usually in the 14, 15 inch range. I mean, it just nothing else out there that can really, unless it's a GPX or something like that, maybe, but they're probably not using pulse machines in somebody's yard or anything like that. But I think you have some, at least you have some potential of finding some good stuff anyways, I would think. I mean, just from using some of these other machines, because you said they were using whites a lot and stuff, and I know
a lot of these guys I've seen think 4 or 5 inches is fine. That's great.
Well, it was 10 years ago. I mean, that was not bad.
But they got the old blue box whites.
Right.
They got Garrett Grandmasters. With these the old green ones.
Right.
They're all the machines are like from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, they're great machines at the time, but they're not.
I think I saw one DFX, maybe 2 guys, that were hunting with them. But I've seen some really old Nautiluses that don't even look like the newer ones at all.
That's cool.
Like the first generation ones.
Yeah.
And I talked to this one guy. He dug 12 plates in 1 year, and one was a CSA.
Wow.
And
so they can't be that deep. I mean, let's see. Well, you have good ground there, so the Nautilus may hit them. But I mean, I know that the mineralization, in some of these areas will keep it back. But I think it's pretty neat because if they're digging that stuff, Craig, that you know about the depth because you've used a lot of these machines, so if they're telling you 5, 6, 7 inches down, and that's where they're getting coins and stuff at, bullets. This opens the whole door up for you if there is, because you're finding deep stuff on your property. I can't see why it would, deep stuff on your property, why it wouldn't be the same across the street.
Yeah.
It should be about the same. It's not that far of a distance. So, I wonder if, did they ever say anything about hut sites? Has anybody ever talked about that in your area? Like finding a hut site somehow? Because you said they can camp there so many times. I just didn't know.
When I first got into town, I was talking to the police down at the station when we registered in the city they had the town center was there too before they renovated the new building. But I got to talk to this guy, and he saw my jacket. I had the Blissful jacket on, and he says, "Oh, you relic hunter?" And I go, "Yeah." And he says, "I don't do it, but I got a friend that just found a CSA belt buckle like 2 feet deep in a hut site in a farmer's field nearby here." And so I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "That's the one thing I want to find that I've never found before." I said, "I found, I think I'm up to 27 or 28 plates now."
Wow.
But, that's just one I'd like to. I don't know that little what was it, sash buckle, wreath. I don't know if that's could be Confederate or not, but
I wouldn't know. You guys are the experts on that Civil War stuff. I don't get in. I mean, I get into it, but I don't hunt for it very often.
I wouldn't know until I find that. I wouldn't know until I find the. I just got a message from Mike's brother. It says, "My brother-in-law had a cabin in Newmark until last year, and though there was an encampment not far from their cabin up in Newmarket Gap. Not sure if you would get shot or not, but you know exactly where it is."
All right, buy it. Start out with the Kevlar. Wear the Kevlar vest, brother. You got to buy a skull mask like I have and go in there incognito Nighthawker. Nah, don't do that.
I've known this guy since I was 12 years old, so it's pretty funny.
Oh, he's yeah, okay, I know who you're talking about now for sure.
It's Mike's brother.
Mike's brother. Oh, okay.
I found a bunch of stuff in their yard in Alexandria, and it was a funny story. The father was kind of a gruff kind of guy, and he was he saw me metal detecting, or he saw the metal detector and stuff, and so he was like, "I don't know if I should let you do it or not," and so he wouldn't give me a yes or no, and so his youngest son said, "Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do it in the backyard here?" So I walked over to the edge of this. It was like the hills slanted way down, and it was real steep. And so I got right on the edge, and I dug 7 bullets in a row.
Wow.
3 ringers. And after I dug the first one, I went in the house to find his father, and he wasn't in his chair. So I stuck the bullet on the arm of his chair. And so I went back out, and I dug about 3 more bullets before he came running out the back door holding his bullet. And he was, he told me there's nothing there. There's no soldiers weren't there. There's no, stuff there. And I said, Mr. Kelly, right across the, like less than a quarter of a mile from here is a fort,
Yeah.
And I said, I found all kinds of stuff in my yard and a couple other neighbors' yards. So there's no telling. So anyway, he says, "Where'd you dig those bullets?" And I said, I pointed to where I dug them. And he says, "Well, I don't see any holes." And I said, "I don't leave holes." He goes, "Okay, you can do the whole backyard, but not the front." But I ended up finding about 20 bullets. And I got a volunteer Maine militia cuff button, I think a flat button. And years later, Mike found open dig holes in the backyard. And we don't know who it was.
Wow.
Somebody snuck in.
Yeah. That seems to happen a lot up there by you, Craig. I mean, people around here know guns live here. They don't. They're going to cross a property line as easily. I mean, few nutcases do it, but it's not anywhere. It seems like any given day I can call Craig and he'll say, "I saw somebody across the street and this and that." And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Well, I'm in town. It'd be kind of hard to get away with it, but still people are doing it. But like outside of town, I mean, there's properties that are huge. Big 15, 20, 40 acre, fields. And the guy I got permission with said I can go and, basically if I want to jump the fence and hunt at night at this other side.
Yeah.
And guys are always over there doing it. It's just the way it is. And, I hunted the woods, and I want to go back, and I found one bullet, but it's so thick, with briar patches and stuff.
Yeah, it's miserable.
Hard to hunt.
Yeah.
But I got one bullet, and it was a fired 3-ringer about 11 inches deep.
Yeah.
And so when I came back to his house after we hunted, he goes, "Hey, you didn't find anything, did you?" I go, "Oh, I got a bullet." He goes, "You did? Yes, you got a bullet?" And they had the whole family had a shocked look on their face. And I said, "Yeah, I got a really good machine." And I've dug them deeper than that, And he goes, "Well, how deep was it?" And I said, 11 inches. He goes, "Your machine can pick a bullet up 11 inches?"
Yeah, they just haven't heard of it. Yeah.
And he was shaking his head, and I said, he said, "Well, you can come back anytime you want." And he said, if you want to hunt at night, just park right there and just go do it.
Well, it's like this quest,
they were here last night.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of
he
these,
said, he said, this whole street is all my in-laws and uncles and aunts and stuff, and they don't mind. You can just hunt their back, hunt all their property was all woods, but he said they don't mind, And two of them were Mike met two of the guys, and he saw this Confederate flag on this giant boulder. It was painted onto this boulder right in front of their house.
Oh, Craig!
And he saw these two guys and stopped and said that they were relic hunters, and they said, we were looking. Mike was looking for the guy Jeff, so he went around. He said, "Oh, he lives over there, and we're his in-laws." So,
Hey, Earl has a question for you. Earl from Virginia. He says, "Craig, do you got any friends at Fisher's Hill?"
No, but somebody was telling me about they're doing some work there or something right now.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess he was wanting to know.
Yeah.
He does have a comical little thing here. He goes,
the people next door actually lived near there and had ancestors from that area. People up on Fisher's Hill could actually see the battles, going on.
Yeah.
They all used to sit on their porches like it was, like at the movie theater to watch the battle.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, I got Larry Stewart's on here. I guess you were talking about hut sites and privies and stuff. He goes, y'all know this is the only hobby where the words "we got to dig a privy" generates envy. It's the only place you'll ever find it. And privy's an old outhouse, guys. I mean, old. We're talking old ones, and back then, I mean, you'll find anything in a privy other than what you expect to find in there. That's gone, but they'll find bottles and just they threw everything in there. It seems like, or along like a path. If you know where an old privy was on a property that you've been hunting, I mean, take a direct line from the back door to the privy and metal detect the crap out of it, literally, because they were dropping stuff and stuff like that along that pathway. To get to that outhouse or whatever. But there are people that dig them up. They find just medicine bottles, regular bottles. I'm sure just pretty much all kinds of weird stuff. Another place is clotheslines. These old, like these down here in Florida, and I find, I get an old cracker house, I can metal detect the property. The first thing I go for is if I can see where they would have had a clothesline at. Or sometimes you'll still find, like the remnants of one or what you think is one. Do that clothesline area. I swear, do it a million times. It seems like, because most people hung up their pants. When they washed them, they hung them up upside down by the pant legs. That means anything that was left in the pockets, because and you do it and I do it, Craig. We always leave change in our pockets. It seems like always find some. So
I had permission at Fort Belvoir years ago, and they had all this GI housing there, and most of it was from like just after World War II, like late 40s probably, and they had like behind some of these, they were like it's almost like apartments, but they were like on each person. It was just one unit, next to each other. And then it had like a big common area behind like a square of these, buildings. But there was all these wash lines there. And so I got under one time, and it was three of them, three in a row. And in 2 hours, I dug 177 coins.
Wow.
And I think I dug it was 80 wheat pennies. I think I got five buffalo nickels and probably 7 or 8 silver coins. I was kind of disappointed there wasn't more silver coins. I thought with all those amount of coins I would have found more silver, but there was one side we were finding more silver than the other side, and I figure maybe those were the officers on that side. Maybe
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Gavin's over in Australia, and he was just saying here, he goes, he didn't know what a privy was. He goes, okay, thanks, never heard of that term before. We use the term long drops. I was like, you hear in Australia when you go in one of the outhouses, you hear at the bottom for 2 or 3 minutes. That's how deep they dig them. I'm just joking. But yeah, that's what we call them here in the U.S. as privies or outhouses or whatever. But privy digging, these are old ones. I mean, like from, you can find them all the way back. I mean, back to what, Revolutionary time, Craig, colonial time, whatever. And, these guys will locate them somehow and they'll just start digging. I've seen, there's some videos on YouTube. I remember seeing a couple. These guys were digging down way deep. And they just kept on pulling up all kinds of pottery and bottles and, I'm sure coins and everything else out of the bottom of these things, or towards the bottom and the sidewalls and everything else. And usually they moved every so often. So if you have a project like that up in Horsham, Pennsylvania, when we hunted the up there for the Digging in Pennsylvania event we went up to, they said there were 7 of them, 7 old privies on there, on that, behind that house there. And I think they only had, 2, Craig, that we could tell, but they were probably all around there.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So yeah, we're talking clear back to, George Washington had owned that property at one time or got acquired it or something like that. So this is like 25 miles from Philadelphia. But anyways, it was a historical society property now. And that's what we were hunting for. Just, they invited us up to hunt, and, we were able to keep everything we found and everything we wanted, or you could donate it or whatever. But it was to generate money for the restoration of the home there, because these old homes are, they're very expensive. You have to replace them with, a lot of times if you want a historical value, you have to replace, at least down here in Florida, if you find an old cracker house, you want to redo it or fix it up or whatever, restore it, you have to use period wood or whatever. You can't just use brand new stuff to keep the historical, so-called historical value to it, I think is that's the way the rule always was. They may have changed it by now, but a lot of times.
I think around here, they, if you want to restore a property and it has a cabin on it, you got to restore the cabin.
Right.
That's what they did across the street from us. And then the lady built like this, it's like, it looks like 3 houses, built together on the back of this thing. Can't even hardly see the cabin now. So this house is so big, but she has a garden club.
Yeah.
That's going to be her meeting hall, but she did it. They brought in specialists to do that cabin.
They'll take it down board by board or whatever when they're getting product.
Yeah,
they'll take it up board by board, nail by nail. I mean, they keep everything, to restore
funny.
it.
It looked like they were trying to save a lot of it, but they ended up replacing most of it.
Yeah, sometimes you can, but southern white pine or something like that. That it's more rare down here, or almost. That's what they were logging out of here for many moons ago, and you get some of these old cracker style houses that have that tongue and groove kind of boards on it that link together, like, you can tongue and groove. I don't know how to put it other than that, but a lot of the ones around here were made with that, so they take all that stuff off and reuse it on other houses, other projects or whatever. If the house is too far gone and they're not going to be able to restore it, they use all the stuff off there to redo the other house. And so that way they're holding in the historical value and all that kind of stuff. There's actually a 2-story, I'm going to call it a Victorian because I don't know what else to call it. A really, really old house. It used to be, at one time it was a cat house, so to speak. Another era in time, it became a hospital or whatever, like a doctor's office kind of thing way back. We're not talking anything recent. And now it's sitting I think a lady from St. Petersburg owns it now, and they've tried to restore this house, and it just needs so much work. It's such a beautiful house, though, and it's on like maybe two city lots tops, and it just has that look about it. It's like the classic mystery house kind of thing. It just, there's probably not much to it, but it seems like a lot of activity happened there. But the neat thing, I was able to detect the property. One of the ladies at church had it. It was a house there that they had built and everything back in the 60s or 70s. But behind it was the servants' quarters, and that had been turned into a house also. And they've torn it down since, but I got a chance of metal to take that property. I found some Indian head pennies and stuff like that, but nothing back before 1868, something like that, Craig. But I know it was there long before that. So this place had a lot of history to it as far as, what had been there, what had been done there, and all that kind of stuff. And all the houses around it were probably just part of the farm kind of thing. And then were built later on. I did find some interesting stuff on the house across the street from it. I got permission there, but I had to give the guy wanted all the stuff. But I found some, I think some Barber dimes there. I'm trying to think back now. I think the neatest thing, I'm almost positive it was a Civil War button, but it was I don't have a photo of it. Back then I wasn't really photoing a lot of stuff, but it looked like a naval button, but it could have been one of those blazer buttons. I didn't know a lot back then. This is like 12, 13, 14 years ago, and I wasn't really into the Civil War era kind of stuff, but it had the cannon or an eagle with cannonballs and a cannon neck on the same button. But it may have been a blazer button. I don't know, but whatever. It was still period. It looked period anyways.
Sometimes they have those 3 balls at the bottom.
Yeah, and it could be very well. I've been fooled before like that, but I also found that, and this is right by the church property that I'd done for years. I think Mark Hoover had done it. Come over and we let him on for a little while and everything. That's where I found that railway button, and everybody said, well, a couple guys said, well, that's probably not Civil War. When I turned around and I was sitting there looking at photos of Civil War buttons, and what pops up is a button with a real a train on it, tracks, and it was just really kind of ornate button. And it was from 1863, something like that. I have no idea what it went on or anything, but it's the only other button like that I've seen, on the internet, because at the time I'd looked it up, through photos and everything. I do that a lot on the Google, like I'll put, I don't know, Civil War button photos, and it'll come up with that Google Photos or whatever it is. Craig, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll go down through there like I was looking for, anytime I find an item, I just, write that in there, photos of this, photos of that. And sometimes you get lucky. I'm about to say 65, 70% of the time you get lucky and see a photo of what you have. And then that way you can at least get a date or an idea of what era it was from and stuff. That's what I did with that fireman's fire hydrant wrench. And the one I have, it has an extra hole in it, where you could take a certain kind of bolt off. They had those. You could obviously open up the fire hydrant, when you put the hose on there, but it had other holes along the frame of it to be able to open up different valves or bolts or something. But this one I have is probably, I'm thinking it has to be from the 20s, 30s, somewhere in there. It's pretty old, but I can't find one with that third hole in it. And I thought that was pretty nice. I still haven't found any more information about it. It's made by the same company, but there's no photos, no description. Maybe it was special made. I don't know, but it's cast. Whatever the heavy cast. So I know it's not like real recent or anything like that. A lot of times too, like I was hauling propane and anhydrous and Y grade, whatever it has. I have a wrench for the main lines coming out, where you fill up the customers' tanks and stuff like that. And ours are all made out of aluminum, like a real heavy cast aluminum to open up the valves and stuff like that. The caps on the end. So I don't know when they started making the fire hydrant kind of thing, or when fire hydrants first came around. I'm assuming they would have been around for quite a while, haven't they, Craig? I'd say 1900 anyway. I'm not positive. I'm probably about the 1920s, I guess, where they started having actual some kind of fire wagons, trucks, whatever. They had to be able to open those valves somehow. But I just haven't done a lot of research on it yet. But you never know. But it's a good source for you to just kind of do an initial search. And then, of course, put it all over Facebook and forums or whatever else you need help IDing it. I do it every once in a while, too. I find weird stuff, it seems like, quite often. and I've said, put stuff on there. And usually within a day, probably not even that, I have an answer, whether it's legit or it's something newer or whatever. Some people even give you a history on whatever the item is. So, you guys are real helpful out there helping people out like that. If you ever find something, I always tell people, don't throw anything away until you know absolutely sure what the heck it is. Because, I've been in a situation where I got rid of something and realized, oh, crap, I had something good and I, kind of threw it out or got rid of it. And it happens to all of us at some time or another, but it only has to happen once or twice before you figure out to keep it, But then you end up like Craig with about... Oh, go ahead.
A friend sending me all these photos of Newmarket, of all these historical places to hunt.
Hey, he's helping you out, bro.
Right where he was saying, I could take a risk or something. There's a covered bridge, really cool covered bridge. You don't see too many of those.
No. Yeah, I would. Well, you're in the right area. As you go farther north, maybe you find them in like New Hampshire and that stuff like that. We had some in my old town in Pennsylvania, the old covered bridges. I think they're still there. They were trying to restore a couple, but they're really neat. I mean, I don't know, it's nostalgic. I don't know. I've always liked the covered bridges, and you find them out on the rural roads. I think there was two or three that I can remember when I was a kid. We used to go out there and trout fish because they used to stock trout everywhere up there. Where I lived at, and we'd go out trout fishing and stuff right by the covered bridge. That was the place to go. So, yeah, he's going to have you night hawking before too long, Craig. You know that. He's picking on you. He's tantalizing you to do something bad. It is an addiction. Oh gosh, I can't wait for it to cool down just a little bit. I don't mind a little bit of heat, but this is getting crazy down here. The humidity, just so stifling. But I don't feel bad. I was sitting outside. I was smoking, and outside there they have a smoking area, and it's like I didn't see anybody having a big problem with it, but a few of them did. They're not from down here, and they're, God, how do you all do it? And I said, well, not much choice. Can't smoke inside down here, so you got to smoke somewhere. So I was sitting out there, and then of course the rain and the thunder comes in, and they scattered, and it was just drizzling. I went back out there to smoke. Sir, well, you're going to get wet. I ain't worried about it. And the lightning started, and I went back in. So it's not discriminatory down here. It'll fry anybody that it seems like. I know a couple guys walking down the road and getting struck.
It was supposed to rain all day down here during that flea market, but it didn't start until late in the afternoon.
Right. Supposed to do it tomorrow morning here, I guess. I hear he's still messaging you, isn't he? Craig's phone's going off left and right. But yeah, well, these house properties and stuff, and most of you guys, I mean, on chat right here probably know this already, but for other people, look for, when you have an old house site, somebody's property and it's an older home on it and stuff, start looking for, where a privy would have been, or the old clotheslines. That's a good place to go if you can, if nobody's really hunted it. You'd be surprised how shallow this stuff is. maybe they had a pool area or, these pond areas, like out here. If I see a pond on a property and it's an old property, man, I'm down there by that pond if I can get near it. It's not all overgrown and stuff like that because, well, it's a water source. Any kind of, real water source they would have been using somehow or another. Trying to think some other spots on there where they have their gardens at a house. Where you think a garden is, usually the soil's a lot looser than it is around the rest of the property and stuff. I'll always look at those because, people drop stuff all the time. I mean, you're down there picking stuff or planting stuff or whatever else. I've even heard tales. Well, Craig, you found that that King George up there when we were hunting with Bill, and then Rusty Fawcett found that the King George. You found the silver half right there in the garden area where they had that little. Gardens are good, and I've always heard tales of the ladies out.
Well, I think also that was a roadbed.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Went to that. Yeah, I could actually tell once I got down there that had been a road. You could see where it had like banks on it.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Side, but and Bill found that $2, so there's no way that was a garden back in the 1700s.
Well, yeah, they had that other property back there where he found those reals.
But there was a colonial farm or two back in there.
Right. I'm sure Bill will get on here and tell us.
There's a guy found a U.S. box plate in that cornfield right next to that garden.
Yeah, and Bill was telling us too. Later on, it was all cornfield when we were up there. But he said it was another slab back there or something. There was another home back in there, and that's where he's been digging a lot of stuff too. To the button, locomotive on the tracks. Yeah, Bill, that's the button I found. I'll dig it out. I have it packed away in my coin book because it didn't have a back on it or a loop on the back, so I just put it in my coin book in a coin holder, whatever. I'll have to get a photo. Maybe I have one somewhere on one of the sites or something. I just can't remember. I'm sure I posted it up sometime or another, but I'll put a photo on it. I think you told me that before that you had found one. We'll match them up and see if they match up a little bit. But it's kind of neat. It doesn't look like a cartoony kind of locomotive. It actually looks like a locomotive on it. Like the engine and the tracks right there, and it's about the size of a. I guess it could be. It's not as big as an eagle button, but it's I don't know. It's just slightly smaller than that, and it's more flat. It's not the bowed kind of button, bubble button or whatever you want to call them. It's more of a flat type with a ridge around it. Like probably about the dime size, I guess you could say. Probably dime size button. So, but yeah, Bill still hunts that spot up there, and. It says civilian blazer button off a sports coat. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I'm not reading it right. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, shoot. I'm trying to keep up with chat, and they're blowing me away. It's going so fast. But at any rate. But yeah, you never know what you dig up along through those places. You come across stuff, and even if, you guys that go out and get permissions on a property or whatever, some of the newer people, don't let the homeowner tell you, or don't believe everything the homeowner tells you about the history of the property. Even if they've been there for 20 years, because they'll say, oh, there's never, ever been anything here, never heard of anything here. You start hunting
or they'll tell you something that, that you think is really good, and it turns out it wasn't there.
Yeah. I've always
had that before, too.
Yeah,
I've always. People just don't know history. It's like,
right.
When people would hear that I dug Civil War bullets in Alexandria, in my yard, they were like, "But there was no battle here." The first thing they said.
Yeah.
And I go, "No, they had the camp somewhere, didn't they?"
Yep. Well, that's why they did over. I had one guy tell me that on a plantation property, there's never been homes on this property, or da 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 da. And the first day I'm looking around, and you kind of sight read. You can just you have this 300 or 400 acres. You're like, okay, crap. Where do I start? I mean, I'm not seeing any. There's no buildings. There's where would I put a house? Where would I? You're kind of going through this in your head. And I found a fence pole that was grown through a tree that was obviously through the crotch of the tree, but it kind of covered it all up. You could never get the pole out of the ground. Put it that way. It's going all down through the tree roots and everything, and it's probably been there like that for at least 30 years. Anyways, probably longer than that. So I started hunting right around there, and that's where I hit the mother load of relics as far as from. I think the oldest. I think I dug stuff from the 1850s or something like that, right in there, Indian heads and stuff like that. So I mean, it was just a relic extravaganza, put it that way. I mean, I dug with I had the MXT out there. I've had the DFX, the new when the Spectre was new, in 09 or newer, anyways. I think came out that year. I put that through there, and then the Blistool V3, V5, and V6, and I found hundreds of coins and everything else with the Whites machine, and I'd given up after the Spectre V3. I just wasn't finding nothing. I mean, iron targets and stuff like that, bigger iron. I went in there with that Blistool and V3 when it first came out, and I probably, not even exaggerating, probably 1,000 more targets out of there. It's just different detector, different depths, different target separation. And I just always took the Blistools in there, and with the V5, I think it was five or six coins in a row or something like that the first day out with it, in not even a 30-foot area. So it just, the other machines weren't hitting them, weren't able to see them, weren't able to unmask them. Maybe, I don't know. But I had the V3 in there and dug tons of stuff. I mean, I made a lot of videos from that era of when I was hunting, and then the V5 brought it all back again. And I was hunting a couple of the other nearby fields, certain parts of them where they used to load cattle and stuff way back. I gridded that off. I found Seminole Indian bullets and Union bullets, the musket balls and stuff like that, gun parts, just anything you could think of. I got tired of digging most of the time. I mean, you just get wore out and you just got to stop. So I'd only get like about this area was only about maybe 50 foot wide by 100 foot long. The one part where I dug, just bunches of stuff. And, I just kept on going back to it. So we're not talking a huge area. And once you got out of that area, boy, it slimmed down so bad. I mean, I was hunting in all metal just to find something. So it was obviously there was a house there. And then I found a wood, like the old cooking stoves, Craig, the wood burner stoves, real ornate parts off of that, about 100 acres over, along with brass pipes and old railway rails from the Orange Belt Railway, sections of them. I was digging those up, mason jars, just ungodly amount. It was almost too trashy to hunt. That's how many, but it was non-ferrous items too in there. So I mean, it was just so much stuff. It was like trying to dig a cellar hole. I swear, I had so many holes dug, and the guy didn't care because these were just fields. He says, as long as you throw the dirt back in them, I don't care. So I didn't have to be real careful and kind of like carve out a small plug. I could just throw a number 2 shovel and just flip out a plug. And as long as I threw the dirt back in, that's all the guy cared about because the cattle were on there too. And the bulls and stuff will dig trenches and try to cool down and stuff. So the field had a bunch of those kind of things, old, I don't know what they call them, but I just, they're pits where the bulls, the cattle will dig out and everything else. So, I mean, it wasn't like it was a pristine area. I didn't have to worry so much about the looks, just as long as I filled the hole in. So, I mean, I've taken people out there. Matter of fact, I took Beach Bum and Tony from Orlando, one time. And I think Tony was using his Thesauro, and I think Beach Bum was using the V3 or something like that. And he didn't have any luck that day. I don't know what he was using as far as settings. This is early on. This is like 2012, 2013. But that was the same day I found that 50 caliber bullet casing from World War II. It had 1941 on it, or 42, something like that, on the brass. And I'd never found one of those, and it was spent. It was a spent round. It wasn't like a full bullet, but nobody was firing those around here. I highly doubt. But there's a landing strip that was less than a quarter mile away. The old military landing strip for the cargo planes. It was actually a chemical weapons strip or whatever storage area or something like that back in World War II. So, I was able to find one of those 50 caliber bullets. Was the only one I've ever found, so that was kind of neat. I did that day and a few other things. It's just weird. Some people, I think it's the luck of the draw, Craig. You just don't get your coil over it because those guys are accomplished hunters. They're not, they're not. At the time, I was, I probably had, I don't even know how many years in, but I mean, these guys were very, very much into the hobby, especially Tony, man. And Tony has been hunting since, I think, 75 or 76, something like that. And he's always done the beaches. He tell me stories about hunting the west coast of Florida, the beaches. And if you didn't bring $80 or $90 in change on a weekend on the beaches over there, you just didn't know what you were doing, is the way he put it to me. He has photos of stuff and just ungodly amount of clad and jewelry and this is back, in the 70s. So, I don't know how many people were really metal detecting down here. I'm sure more than most places because of the beaches. But he was using I think he was using a White's machine back then. Maybe it was a Mine Lab, I can't remember. But then he went into Thesaurus shortly after that. And in the 80s, he was selling them. Same way you were, Craig. I think it was in the 80s you were doing that, or 90s. That you were a dealer.
I started about 1988, and I stopped about 1994, 95.
Yeah, Tony did it down here up until the box store came out, we'll just say that, and then he kind of got shoved pretty hard because he's just a regular guy like us, and he was selling Thesaurus, and he kind of got out of selling them, but he's always loved the machine, this analog machine and everything, but he...
they weren't supposed to sell Thesaurus back then, and they just used dealers back then.
Right.
But I don't know if they're
It was something about the way that they had
carry them or not, but
well, they do now, I think. But
they wanted the dealers to at least make a little money.
Right, right.
They
had a problem with the way that they had this sectioned off in the state or something. I don't know. It was some kind of sordid thing. It ticked him off a lot because he couldn't make any money at it. But he wasn't really doing it for the money. Oh, he's doing it for the money. Don't get me wrong. We want to make money at something we love to do. But it wasn't like his primary income source or anything. So he just pretty much went to the technical side of detecting, and he was doing field testing for whites and I think Thesaro and just stuff like that. Mostly whites, though, because he's the one actually did the field, or a group of them did the field test work for the Spectra V3 from whites. And, they were comparing notes and stuff like that. But that was the same year that I bought when they first came out with the Spectra V3 from whites. And I just happened to meet Tony on the whites forum because I was trying to figure out the machine, and he said, well, I live over in Orlando. You want to go hunting? And he turned out to be a really good friend. And we'd been hunting 4 or 5 days a week for a couple of years. And then he had to move to North Carolina. And we've kind of lost touch a little bit. We talk every once in a while, but, that was my, we'd hunt and hunt and hunt. I mean, I don't care what day of the week it was, what time, if it was raining or not. We didn't care. We'd go out there and wait for the rain to slow down and hunt. So I got to learn a lot from this guy. This guy knew this machine inside and out, and it helped me out a lot to just watch the way he was working the machine, what settings he was using. And it got to the point where, Tony said, I can't really teach you nothing else. You're out hunting me every single time. And it's just pure determination. I wanted to find, metal detecting is an addiction. It really is. I really believe it. I can't, it consumes half of my life anyways, and the rest is family. So, and sometimes family and metal tech. So it just, you crave that knowledge.
I was talking to the lady next door I've known, since I was a kid. And she goes something about, all you do is read about metal detect, and then read more.
Yep.
That's all you talk about. I go, hey, I said, it's always been my hobby, and I was into it. I've been into it for 32 years, and it hasn't stopped. I mean, I still it's my favorite thing to do. I quit playing tennis, and I was an A player, and I got so into metal detecting, I kept coaching, and and training people, in tennis.
Yeah.
But I stopped playing competitively because I just lost interest. I like metal detecting so much. I started going out every, early in the morning, every weekend, and
Right.
staying late. And I've been doing it for years. And I wish I could hunt as long as I did back then, but
Yeah. Well, it creates a monsters. I mean, I have, like my mom, I never thought she would like metal detecting. And she goes out with me. Some of you guys have, seen me out there with her and stuff like that. She loves to dig up the target. Now I've got her kind of addicted to metal detecting. I had to take her back out and let her go out there and metal detect because she starts getting on my case about it. That, if I was a good son, I'd take her out metal detecting. So I want to be the good son, so I got to take her out. But Pauline, she was another one that, of course we were together at the time and everything, but she's known my love for it, but never had an interest in it really. Didn't mind it, but she's always said, "Hey, at least I know you're not sitting at a bar or catting around or something like that. You're out there metal detecting, And but early on, before we even got married, she didn't care about it, Then she started getting into it. My daughter's, she likes doing videos. A couple of videos that you see that my daughter, well, even my wife too. They like shooting video of stuff or taking photos and stuff like that. They have an interest in that, so it kind of links together a little bit that way. But even these, one of our friends has a couple boys. I think 8 and I'll say 8 or 9 and 12. I can't remember which one, but anyways, they're bugging me. I got to get that detector over there. They actually have been so busy going on these trips and stuff like that. Now they're playing football, so they haven't had a lot of time. So I haven't worried about it. But I was talking to their mom the other day. She goes, "Yeah, they asked me the other day about a metal detector." I said, "Yeah, I'm just going to bring this one over and give it to them. Let them play with it as until they get." They want something different, and you can get them something different. I said, "This is a good." I'm just going to take the Quest 20 over there and let them play. What the heck? I mean, for a kid that age, that's adventure. That's digging up in the dirt and everything else. That's pretty fun. If they show an interest in it, why not just spark the interest? Because it keep them out of trouble anyway. The worst thing they'll get in trouble for is not going to school on time because they're out metal detecting the backyard. That's why something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we got doing that, but that's where I learned a lot of stuff. I mean, I paid attention. I hunt with anybody. I hunt with Craig or I hunt with, the way you hunt, the way you swing the coil, the way that you recover targets, the adjustments you make on the machine. If I have the same machine, I'm hunting with somebody that has that, same machine. I'm gonna watch. Even now, I do that because you could pick up on stuff that you may never even thought of, or that you haven't implemented yet in the way that you hunt. They're doing and being successful with it, and maybe they're learning from you. So, we pile around. Everybody goes to these hunts and stuff. We're all learning from each other anyway. Whether we mean to or not. You're seeing how others are doing the same thing because there is books on metal detecting and stuff, but some things you're just not going to learn out of a book. You got to experience it and be there. And I've always been better at hands-on learning rather than reading out of a book. It's helped me a lot. But yeah, we got hunting so much, and he says, I can't. He goes, you're starting to come up with settings that I hadn't even really thought of, and I didn't think would work, but they are working obviously. And you're being more successful than I am at most times. And when we started comparing targets, when I got the Blisstal V3, then he was using. I think it was an MXT or something. He switched back and forth, but yeah, I mean, he was being successful on areas that I didn't even detect yet. So I know there's targets there, but when I dug that meteorite, I mean, he had to stick his coil. Well, it was a shoulder deep target, so he had his coil down in there probably as far as he can get it before he could even get a signal. And he said, "That's good. It's saying good." And I'd get down in there, and I thought it was a chunk of steel or of some kind or whatever, and I put it in my fine pouch, and it's a stony, irony meteorite. I'm almost 90% sure of that, 95% sure, but magnets stuck to it and all that, but it blew him away. He goes, "My God, you hit that thing," and it was right between first and second base on the old playground, the old baseball field. That's where I found that 1901 large cent from Canada. I found all kinds of little pieces of jewelry and medallions and silver coins and just crazy amount of stuff. And the only reason I was able to hunt it, because you can't hunt a lot of these school properties anymore. They have them all fenced off and everything because they had the fence down. They were going to redo the property, so I was able to go in there. They didn't care, and I could just hunt it up or whatever I wanted to do because they were going to rip it out or clear it off. So it worked out nice for me. Now you can't hunt it anymore, but it's already built over and everything. This is actually the same property, a parking lot that I'd done for and found our Colored Heroes medal. I mean, there's a lot of history on this property, clear back to 1889 or something like that. It was a college. It had a track and a truck for track and field events, bleachers and everything. All that's gone. It was been gone for many, many years, and probably until the 71, 72, something like that, as the last aerial photo I had of it. And it shows the track and everything, and it's all just a regular field now with a retention pond and a fence around it. You can't even tell where anything is. But I've found so many different kinds of relics there. The World War II drill sergeant's whistle, it's actually stamped military on it. So I mean, wood burner parts and coins and the old sidewalk beds right through there too. I mean, I found the old sidewalk beds covered by turf now. I've got the start of it, and I'd worked my way down it and found, just all kinds of stuff too. So, you never know. You get onto these properties, don't underestimate them. You don't overestimate them either. I mean, you just kind of look around, and if you start finding some period stuff, even from the 1920s or 30s or 40s, start, keep on digging. I mean, Craig's Yard's a perfect example. I'm sure you found new stuff on there, but now you're getting into the really old stuff, Craig, and you're finding that one, it's not a bullet, that brass ball with the design on it. I don't know how many of you looked at that on Facebook or not, and we don't really know what it is, but it's obviously old. So Craig's getting into that. What, your property was colonial too, wasn't it? They had I think you said that before the Civil War.
Well, there was next door there was a cabin inside the house.
Right.
It's right up against my fence practically.
Yeah. So
and, from kind of like maybe about halfway across my yard from the middle of the yard from that property, we found a couple tomback buttons.
Right.
So,
I remember that too.
They're from the 1700s. And,
well, Mike found the Real there too, right? A Real?
Yeah.
Yep.
But that was 1820.
Oh, okay. I thought it was in the 1700s. Sorry.
No, that was.
Hey, it's still old. I don't have one, so it's awesome. So.
Yeah, back then you would see reals rather than you would see the silver, U.S. silver coins.
Right.
You don't find them. I found a coin spill one time with 5 Spanish reals and 2 bust dimes, and those are the only 2 bust dimes I've ever found. But they're just not found very often by people.
Yeah. Yeah. See,
the reals would be probably in certain parts in Virginia, that you especially down along the Potomac River, they had all these ports and stuff. This is where I found most of mine over the years. But I found them in other random spots too, here and there.
mm-hmm.
Mostly along the rivers and the creeks, where they did commerce back in it. They didn't have all the roads back then, so they had to use the creeks and stuff.
Oh, sorry, Greg. I was just reading a post here. Nelson, he's asking about if I ever figured out what the deep setting was that I stumbled across. No, but I have my theories on it, and I will be testing. I think I turned that all the way up, not realizing what it was. I thought I was dealing with sensitivity, not the actual deep. It says deep disk setting, but I don't know what it was on when I clicked into that mode. And so I don't know what I'm trying to compare it or use it like I would on a Bliss tool where we have a discrimination level and a discrimination depth. Deep discrimination reminds me of discrimination depth. So I'm going to back it down quite a bit and then go back over some deeper items. Like I have that 10-inch dime. If it comes through clear, obviously it's helping me, it's helping the machine out to get, to be able to get the signal better. Maybe I could bury something deeper than that. If not, then I know the high settings what enabled me to find or to be able to do that. I'm just not sure. I didn't even realize I changed that until later on, because I actually shot a video, Craig, for the field testing video. And, I did it, I think I did it on there, not realizing I had changed that particular setting that way until I came across it again a day later. And I noticed it was on 75, which is pretty high for any kind of discrimination. I mean, that's, if it's the kind of discrimination that you would normally think you'd be almost knocking out pennies, just about, or getting there. But I think this is dealing strictly with maybe iron discrimination. I guess that's the way I should have put it first, because on a bliss tool, the discrimination depth is pretty much iron discrimination, and you can knock it all the way out. You can knock out an axe head if you want to with a bliss tool, or just make it spit or whatever. But if you back it down too far, then you're digging nails and stuff. But with the bliss tool, it works in combination with the other discrimination settings. With this machine, I'm not sure just yet, but I will find out this week. I'm definitely planning on doing that anyways. I'd planned on doing it over here at this place I'm going to be hunting at. Give me a better idea. I'll hunt a little while with the way it's set up right now, and then I'll back it down and start. I'm going to mark some of these targets and see if they sound better or worse with it, and that'll give me a pretty good idea. If they sound better, obviously lowering it was a good idea. If they don't sound better, then I might just leave it where it's at, because it's hitting all the targets I want. It's not knocking out nickels or anything else like that. It's still letting me hear them. So I'm thinking it's more of an iron discrimination type situation with that particular setting, but I just don't know absolutely yet. So that's where I'm at with. That's all I know. Things change too. I mean, Craig, I've been watching. I watched some of the older videos I made, and I like the progression. As we got to know the machines, like your videos are the same way. When we first started out with like the V3s, or even when you start out with the Deus, from what you knew about it the first time until, you used it several years on and off. And with Bliss Tool, you've been using it for 5 years. I love the progression of what our knowledge was, and, how we change it up. You pretty much only know what you know until you don't know that anymore. You know something better. So, we kind of progress on, as we become more knowledgeable about it. I was seeing on here where a lot of these, some of these guys, I think it was Mark and Gavin and stuff like that, talking about fishing. They pretty much gave up on fishing when they went to metal detecting or something like that. I didn't get all of it because it was going by kind of quick. I used to fish all the time too, and I don't know. I don't know if I lost interest. I still fish once in a while. Pauline loves to fish. I think she burned me out a little bit though. Craig, I go fishing with her, and I'm a official bait or throw the line in the water person, because she catches all the fish, one after another after another. I throw one in, she's catching one on the other one.
I fished some when I was a kid, but if I didn't catch a fish every 5 or 10 minutes, I was ready to leave. It's boring to me. But, I don't know. I just can't stand in one spot, sitting there fishing. I got to be walking around doing something. That metal detecting is the perfect thing for me.
Yeah. Well, I got a buddy of mine. He just got back from met me. Actually, he just got back from Afghanistan about I guess it's been about a year ago now. But he moved here to Florida, and we met through the VFW and stuff like that. But he loves shark fishing. That's his thing. Craig, he will fish. I know for a fact he spent 2 days. Didn't go home for 2 days and stayed on the beach or in the kayak. This guy, he's 27, and I said, you got it really bad fishing part of shark fishing. He'll go out in the kayak out in the bay and shark fish. I'm not even exaggerating. And he's catching, catch a lemon shark or something like that, and then use it for bait to catch a bull shark or something. This huge rig he has. He has a mount on his kayak and stuff. This saltwater kayak, I guess it is. He loves it. He brought, he's given us some shark steaks and stuff like that. But I told him, I've got to try that one time in my life. Go out there, and I kept on thinking about the kayak thing. I'm thinking, I'm going to fall out of it, and I'm going to get eaten. And then he shows me the video of him catching. It was a buddy catching a fish or a shark, and he's bringing one shark in, a small shark, and a Goliath grouper comes up, and these things get to be 500, 600, 700 pounds, I guess. They're huge, and it's like a normal grouper, but they call it a Goliath grouper. And it came up and ate the whole damn shark. It come up and right off his line, just took it all. And I'm like, oh, that'd be me. I'd be in a kayak catching a shark, and he'd eat the whole kayak and me. So well, I may try it. I don't know, but he has fun. I told him he'd come up here and we'll do fish for some the alligator gar and stuff like that. I don't keep them, but I mean they're good eating. But I just I don't keep them because they're kind of endangered, obviously. I think, but I like to catch them. And he goes, those things have a lot of teeth on them. I said, yeah, you should see the snapping turtles and stuff like that. So he's kind of getting into that because he's lived in California a lot. So Florida's kind of a whole new adventure for him, but he loves to shark fish and stuff here. So I figured I'd give that a shot, and he's kind of wanting to metal detect too. So, it's kind of funny, fishing, hunting, metal detecting, that kind of thing, all kind of go together sometimes. It's all outdoor fun. So it's good. I was talking with these older ladies today at the meeting and everything, and they saw I have my hat on and stuff, and they were asking me about it. Said, yeah, I get to get dirty all the time. I love being dirty. And they start laughing, metal detecting, getting dirty, down and dirty. So, hey, you're right. Yeah. More and more people are getting into it, though. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people, oh, yeah, I just bought my first metal detector, or I've been thinking about doing it. And there's no age group or gender or anything. I mean, kids, women, men, doesn't matter. They all, it seems like it's become more and more popular. Again, I think it goes through streaks, Craig. I mean, I don't know about you, but I see that, every couple of years it really gets, more interesting, more people kind of think about it or look it up. Because I'm seeing a lot of new faces, or not a lot of new names I don't really recognize. From
a friend of mine, Mike, that got me into the hobby. He just called me this week and wanted, we kind of caught up because I haven't seen him in a while, and he watches my videos on YouTube. But he was asking me, he said, "You heard about this Equinox?" And he's got a E-Track.
Right.
And he's been finding some stuff in his yard. He lives up in Arlington, Virginia, a fairly old place. But there was a lot of Civil War activity in those areas. But anyway, he sent me, that machine's getting to his arm. And I said, that Equinox is, from what I hear, is, probably their best machine right now. So I said, yeah, that machine is definitely light and nice,
Yeah.
But
E-Track was always good, but I mean, it's, I know a lot of people still use E-Track, but I don't know if an Equinox is probably a lot better because it's different technology. It might be a different kind of hunting for him that he's used to. I think he'd find some more stuff, with it. I haven't used one yet. I need to get one of those just to play, see what I can do with it. I know several of the guys on here have them. I think Mark has one, and I think Seven had one too, and a few others.
Yeah,
they're pretty good. I mean, I'm not seeing anything real bad about them at all. Gavin was saying he gave up or didn't want a water hunt or something like that. I'm trying to find the post again. All the crocs. He lives in Australia. The crocodiles, brother. I hear you. Those crocs are vicious. They're worse than an alligator, I think.
My brother and his wife went to Australia about 20 years ago and New Zealand, and my brother said they'd be walking out to some water area, with their swimming trunks on, and all the locals would go, "You're not going in the water, are you?" He said nobody goes in the water in Australia.
Yeah, no kidding. You're gonna find you're gonna be the last swim you ever do.
He was like some kind of sea urchin that kills you instantly or something, and crocs and great whites, and I think the Prime Minister of Australia years ago disappeared in the surf. I think old great white might have gotten him.
Yeah, that's right. They have great white sharks too. Yeah, you can have all that stuff. I'm not sticking a metal detector down in there in the water. I don't even do it here in Florida unless it's like December, January, February. I don't mind going in the water because a lot of times they're not active at all. I mean, they'll still bite you, obviously, but they're not eating. They can't digest it. It has
see what the
shark
Hoover
fish.
boys have been finding in the water lately. They're digging somewhere in Maryland, but they've been taking the AT Maxes out in the water, and Kurt got 3 half reals in one day the other day.
Ah, man.
They got right before that, though, a guy dug a half real cob, and Kurt was going crazy because he's never dug a cob before. But there's a little tiny cob. I've never seen one that small.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, Jason.
But,
oh, go ahead. Sorry. I was going to say,
But
Jason was
they-
on here about the Equinox. His first detector is the Equinox, and he was lucky. He felt lucky he never had to swing a heavy machine, and the Equinox is 3 pounds. Yeah, same with the Quest. I was
Yeah.
kind of getting used to that myself. And Mark Hoover says the only negative thing that he could say about the Equinox is that the ID numbers are too close together. They should have broadened them out. You know, I said that too. You know, I think you're dealing with up to 30. Craig, I can't remember. It's like 30 or 40 on the VDI numbers and stuff. They're really close.
I think it's about 33 or so.
Something like that, yeah. It just seemed a little bit narrowed, but I don't.
That's what it was on the Explorer when I
Oh, was it?
had one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't
had
realize
about
it.
31 numbers, I think, something like that.
Did you notice?
I used to knock out like every number. I'd accept every number except the very last number. You know, I would
Right.
knock out the number one discrimination number.
Right.
But
Notch it
I
out.
found that when I had it on, no discrimination at all, it would pick up hot rocks like crazy.
Yeah.
But if I did one number up, same thing with the XP Deus in my yard. I can't ground balance unless I, at zero discrimination. I got to do it at 1.
Mm-hmm.
It'll ground balance in, but it fails every time at 0.
Yeah, that's just
Even
know.
even though the ground is actually good, it's neutral,
Right.
but it just is iron junk and stuff in the ground.
Yeah. Well, you want a
messing it
stable
up.
detector. I've tried to tell people that for years. That it's all great and well and good that you have a ton of gain. You can put a ton of gain in there and everything else, but if your machine isn't stable is the priority on most every machine I've ever used. You got to have it stable and not falsing and not running so much power that it just can't do anything with it. I'd rather back it down, have a nice smooth machine. At least then what you're hearing is targets and not being so ultra sensitive that you bang the coil and it goes off. I mean, I'm almost a believer on some of the machines. I've owned a couple different ones. A couple of years ago, I was testing, kind of messing with them and stuff. But I heard some of the videos like, if you bang the coil, it makes an awful sound. Well, you smack most coils against a tree, it's going to make some kind of noise. You know, I mean, whatever. I mean, you're going to get a rogue beep here and there, and especially if you're right on the verge of being like a chatty machine. They call it chatty over in Europe. You got a little bit more noise than normal, or like with Bliss Tool, I always run it as a silent hunter. It never needed to have any
if
chat.
you run the Bliss a little hot and hit something, a lot of times it'll false.
Yeah, you got to be careful how far.
If you back it, if you back it down, especially if it hits the wire, because I metal detect in the woods a lot, but you're banging around on bushes and all kinds of stuff. And around here, you got all these rocky ground. I was, trying to get between rocks and stuff,
Right.
to get signals. But I found that probably the Deus you can actually run it chatty, and the signal breaks through and negates the chattiness. But I haven't seen too many machines that do that. Most machines, when you run them too chatty, you're going to miss those little tiny signals.
Well, yep.
It's going to be like, you'll think it's a false or something, or it'll just drown out,
Holy,
that whisper
good.
signal.
I'm not even exaggerating. I don't mean I'm not changing the topic really, but I didn't realize Gavin was saying that over in the States. They were just talking about the prices of them and stuff. We don't really, talk about that a whole lot on here, but I guess they get for the 600. I think it was. I'm sorry, I'm going down through here. The 600 Equinox.
649.
Yes,
price I see.
649 or whatever. But see, I'm trying to find Gavin's post. I'm sorry. I think he said $800 for it, or no, 900. 900 here is what he said, and then he said for the 800, it was $1,200 for the Equinox in Australia. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what all that import stuff is, and customs and shipping, and it may very well be within price range because I know from experience you can get hammered by customs and stuff like that, whether it's U.S. or wherever country. They start opening up boxes and stuff like that. So I guess it's right, but it shocked me a little bit. $1,200, because I think the 800 is going for about $800, isn't it? Or $900 for the 800. Okay, so about $300 or $400 more.
850, 900 over here.
Yeah. There's definitely. I'm sure if you get into, I don't know what they are in the UK. Closer to Sydney, yeah, probably. But you don't never know. As far as final prices go, if you were to buy one, I don't know how that would work on. I've always been paranoid about buying from other countries, as far as detectors and stuff. But usually I haven't had any problem. You just keep in mind, if the person has a good rating, like on eBay or Amazon or whatever, you just got to watch.
The Mind Lab is that, they got, they've always had distributors over here.
Oh yeah. I was talking about private.
I
private
got mine
sales,
in early 2000s, and I got a broken one. My friend just gave it to me, and I had it fixed, and I just sent it. They had a service center on the West Coast, and even back then.
Mm-hmm.
But that was an expensive machine back then too.
Oh yeah. Well, these machines are. I mean, I have to say they're pleasantly less expensive than what their counterparts were, 5 years ago. I mean, when you think about it, I mean,
it's competition.
Yeah.
It's like
there's a ton of
the
it here.
drones. DJI has like price. Price. They hit different price things on that. And when it's the same thing with detectors. Somebody has like a middle line detector, and then they come out with one the same price, and it's got a little bit better.
Right.
That's where the competition is. It's not just with the top of the line; it's even with the middle of the line.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these companies now realize that they can beat the competition by, beating them a little bit more performance at that same price level.
Right.
And
right.
they basically can kill off another company that way.
Yeah. I don't mind.
DJI's done that with drones.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of see it in computers, all kinds of stuff. The price points matter.
Oh yeah. Well, I was talking more or less private sales. Like people, like you selling me one, you live over in the UK or you live in Italy or whatever else. I mean, I haven't had any problems over the years buying stuff from anybody outside the U.S. But I also look at like their rating and look at some of the remarks too. I mean, they'll, as far as individuals go, people are pretty much straight up. I think most of the time, who you're buying from, or you can, you'll ask them questions, whatever. Especially if you're making $500, $600, $700, $800 is a big investment for most people. It is for me. So I mean, I'm going to do a little bit of research, or I'll text them, or not text them, but message back and forth with them a couple times. And if I like the machine, I'll buy it. If I don't think I really need it, I won't. But I mean, I haven't had any problem. The most problem I've had by even with when we were with Blistool and stuff like that, has mostly been the shipping charges and the if it has to go through customs. Now, individual sales, you're not going to have to deal with that as much, I don't believe. I never did before I got involved with Blistool, because then I had to go through U.S. Customs with a larger order. Obviously, there's multiple machines, so they're going to look a little closer, plus the way metal detectors have wiring in them, batteries, the whole 9 yards. They want to make sure what's coming in here doing their job. But
I saw it. I was on a forum the other day and just looking around, and this guy had bought a brand new Equinox in the whole package. I think it was the 800, but
right.
he was asking questions, and he was having problems. He wasn't finding anything, and so it seemed like about every 2 days he had questions about this machine.
Mm-hmm.
And he went out 12 times with this machine, and then the 13th post he was selling the machine.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, it didn't do what he wanted it to do.
And then people were, I don't know how experienced the guy was or anything, but he did not like it. And but that's about the only person I've seen so far that hadn't liked it. Now, they had problems with the machine breaking, or the screen suddenly doesn't work right. But from everything I hear, Mind-Lab has, immediately replaced everything, and made good on it.
Yeah. But,
but there's going to be stuff like that happen every once in a while. But from what I see, that machine is really doing good, and a lot of people like it.
Yeah, and I do make a habit of, and I talked to Evan from Series Detecting, and like I told him, I said, well, I'd like to see, because he asked me, he said, what do you think of the machines, the Quest machines? I said, really, I like them. I like the way they're set up. I like their lightweight and everything, but like the arm cuff screw I told him about. I said, I'd like to see them put a more substantial, like a wing nut screw on there so that you can take off the arm cuff to slide off the control box real easy, real quick. Stuff like that, or I don't know. I mean, if I see something that just doesn't make sense, everything else is solid. And, I like to see, actually, I'd like to see the quick cam locks like they have on the shaft on the control box, because the control box is on top of the handle. They slide in one piece. Put a quick lock on that, and then one on the arm cuff. So you can literally you wouldn't even need anything to take the thing apart all the way and pack it into a suitcase if you do traveling, whatever else. That'd be more convenient for the user. That's what I'm about. Anything to make a machine better and more durable. But most of these companies now, I mean, for White's has always been really, I've dealt with White's for years before Bliss Tool, and they've always had good customer service. I've never, and I don't know what they are right now, but they always send the machine into us. We'll go over it. We'll fix whatever needs to be fixed, and we'll let you know how much it's going to be. They never charge me.
Oh,
7 or 8 times.
Anderson has a carbon fiber shaft now for the Equinox, and I heard a guy talking about it. He'd gotten one. He said it is unbelievable how much lighter it is.
I tell you, Anderson metal detecting shafts. I think they're out of Canada. Am I right, Craig? Or are they out of U.S. now?
I
think it was
thought
Canada.
they were on northeast, or I don't know. They might be up Canada, but
maybe I can't remember. I talked to the owner there. It's been 3 or 4 years ago, but he was talking about I could get a Anderson straight shaft made, and for the Bliss Tool and everything, and it just never was. I didn't like that style on the Bliss Tool. I made one for myself, and it was functional and everything, but I couldn't. There was no way to change your grip really on that when you're dealing with an S shaft detector. At least with the Bliss Tool, I've had a few of my, like the Beach Hunter ID and stuff. You're always able to rest the detector kind of like on your index finger, on your hand, but underneath, and then you can kind of change around a little bit. I didn't like the idea. I couldn't do that because repetitive motion for me, I'm in my, late 40s. I'm starting to feel it in my shoulders, my elbow, my wrist. I got to change positions, or I got that, probably arthritis. I'm getting old as dirt. But at any rate, you get that repetitive motion all the time, and you can change your grip, and it changes, it doesn't put the same pressure in the same points. So you're able to hunt longer pain-free. I mean, and I don't care how heavy or light your machine is, just the motion alone, if you do this all day or, 7-8 hours a day, you're going to start beating your body up a little bit. It's anything you do. I don't care if you're a ping pong player. You're doing the same motions all the time. Your wrist probably kills you by the end of the day.
Repetitive motion injuries.
Right.
I got them in tennis.
Tennis, yeah, tennis a big time, yeah. So when weight does play for me, weight plays a big. not as big of a point as balance point. Just an example, because I know it is like the AT Pro with the stock coil on it. I think it was 1.5 pounds to the coil side. For me, it's a lot of pressure on your wrist, right past your thumb. Swinging it's not a heavy machine at all. I think it's only 3.5 pounds, but it's not. It's not. The control box, everything is ahead of your wrist, so all the weight is hanging, towards the front, anyways. Where you deal with something like a Equinox or a Deus or whatever, or even Blisstal, they're ergonomic. They feel better. They're not as heavy. Now the Deus is obviously probably heavy to the coil side, because all that's where all the controls are in it, but not extremely. Yeah. But
when you swing it, you don't really
right.
feel it. The whole thing is, with the box on it, it's 2.1 pounds. I mean, it's unbelievably light.
And
but you're sweeping on the ground, so the weight is actually on the ground.
Right.
The coil, that's where all the weight is in the coil.
Well, like I had the Beach Hunter ID, I got an Anderson detecting shaft for that because it had the S shaft on there. And the reason I did use that one on it was because I used to chest mount the box. And that way I could look at the lights. I used to hunt in all metal on the Beach Hunter ID from White's because I used to use the lights instead of the sound. If it was an iron target, it was a red light. If it was a gold or something along, like aluminum, gold, nickel, it's going to come up in yellow, and green was going to be all your coins and stuff. So anything that hit, even if it tweaked onto yellow, it was catching a signal there and it was going into the yellow a little bit, I would dig it on a beach, no problem. Well, having an S shaft with no weight on it at all from a control box behind or in front of, I'm dealing with a 12-inch spider coil in the water. It was really wearing on my arm big time. When I went to the Anderson detecting shaft, it spread that out a little bit, gave me a different kind of a grip on there, and it wasn't so bad for me. So sometimes you can make adjustments as far as the detector shafts and stuff and how they're set up. On the Bliss tool, I actually, and Craig saw this, I think a few of you did, I actually made a longer shaft, the upper shaft a little longer, and moved the control box back, I think 7 inches back farther than it was. And I did it for the reasoning of being able to put a bag or something to protect the control box on it if it started raining on me, because we get these rogue rainstorms, and if I'm too far away from the vehicle, I didn't want the control box getting wet, and I didn't want to stop hunting. Well, moving the control box back farther enabled me to take like a 1-gallon Ziploc bag or whatever, something heavier to put over that control box and not interfere with the arm cuff at all. Well, in doing that, I actually changed the weight differential on the detector and made it better. Because now I think we only had about maybe 10 ounces difference between the balance point of the Bliss tool. Well, now it's almost like running the 7x9 coil. It's very light, very very balanced. It doesn't, I don't know, it just makes it a lot easier on your body. But I wouldn't have found that out, unless I was trying to keep it protected from water. So you come across stuff once in a while that really works. I used to use the coil stabilizers too, and with go ahead.
Oh, it's shorten the coil as short as it can go.
Well, yeah, that is a good thing, especially with a bigger coil. Shorten the lower detector shaft, move it up like 2 inches, and lock it into place. Yes, you're detecting closer to your feet, your toes, or whatever, but you're taking that angle out. You extend it out too far, and you're like 1.5 foot, 2 foot from the tips of your toes when you're standing there. That's a lot more stress, a lot more weight hanging on your arm, on your wrist.
So I started doing that when I went to the Nautilus and the Explorer, Moab Explorer, and both those machines are fairly heavy. And I'd shorten it out because I'd hunt for 6 to 12 hours a day, and start wearing on your arm.
It sounds dumb, but 1 or 2 pounds can make a heck of a difference.
A lot of times, if you got into a digging frenzy, you wouldn't even realize it, but your arm would be hurting like hell. But you didn't even realize it until you stop.
Yeah, the more I
But,
detect, I've been detecting we're going on 18 years now, uh, I believe, in the months. But anyways, I'm starting to feel it in my shoulder. All the detectors I've used, the heavy ones, the light ones, just that motion, I'm starting to feel like a rotary cup or something along those lines. But I do a lot of other stuff other than metal detecting. I think metal detecting irritates it a little bit. I don't think it's the cause of it, but it could be. We've talked to a couple guys that. Well, one of the guys was using was it the ATX? I think it was, Craig. You were telling me he had to go in for shoulder surgery. Literally, he tore up his rotary
well,
cup
I know
really
guys
bad
that,
with it.
have had surgery for with the CTX and also with the E-Trax.
Yeah, it's something about the way it could be the way they're swinging it, the way they feel comfortable, it's actually hurting them, or it's just the way they, yeah, the way the machines weigh a little bit more, obviously, but I think it's the way the weight distributes. Because I've seen Rusty go out there with the damn CTX and with the big old monster coil on it and swing all day long. But I think he's done what you did, Craig. He shortened the detector shaft up a little bit, and it helped him, And I guess I never really thought about it.
It definitely does. The longer the lever arm,
right?
The more stress it puts on your arm.
Something else to try too is, and I never thought this would work, and I tried it on the Bliss tool, and it was actually even better in a way. If you take, especially these oblong, whatever you want to call them, double D coils where the detector shaft connects to the coil farther back, it's not the center of the coil, it's farther back towards the back of the coil, turn the coil around. So face the coil with the front of the coil where it is now, turn it around so it's facing backwards and use that detector, because now the weight is farther underneath the detector shaft and not sticking out farther. It sounds silly, but it does make it, make it lighter or whatever. It takes that balance. It makes it different a little bit, and it doesn't hurt quite so bad. If you have these kind of problems with your shoulders, arms, it looks funny. And it, depending on what detector you use, what coil you have on these machines, it may interfere with a little bit of swinging or the coil cable itself. But yeah, I did it with the Bliss tool just to try it, and there's not a lot of difference in the center point on the 15-inch coil, but it made it. You could feel the difference in it. So little things you can do to, if you can't, get or can't find, like they call them swing things or it's like a bungee cord essentially. It connects to the metal detector and hangs. And you could swing the detector and let go of the detector if you wanted to, and it just kind of hangs there. You can use those a lot of time. They used to call them swing things, or the swing thing or something like that. I have one actually, and I used to use it on the white Spectra with that big 15 by 18 coil. And I would tighten that thing up just enough where it was just pretty much, I didn't have, if I let go of it, it didn't go too far, sag down any. It had a bungee on it. But I had it tightened up enough where it, I can kind of not have to hold that weight. I can pretty much just swing left and right, and the initial weight of it is actually taken up by the bungee. So you kind of work, think about it and kind of work a way around it so you can make detecting more comfortable for you. It's not going to work in every situation. There's certain, if you're in the woods or something, you're kind of, you're pretty much having to go, like you would normally go anyways, but like on a beach, a field, or something open, you can kind of do some funky stuff on your setup to make it a little bit easier. I even put a side, I guess you'd call it a side handle on the Bliss tool to totally change, instead of being an up and down, holding your hand up and down like grabbing a hold of the T-shaft on a T-shaft detector, I turned that to the right. And that way I can have the S-shaft on the Bliss tool, but I can go over and reach a totally different grip onto the handle I attached right by the S-shaft where I'd grab a hold of it, so I can get a totally different angle and a totally different grip on the detector, so I'm not using the same muscles in my wrist and my elbow to swing the detector. And, I go, if I go out 6, 7, 8 hours, I mean, I'm getting pretty well whooped by about 8 hours. So if it can change it up halfway through or as I go along, and it makes it less painful, I'm not wearing my arm out as much in the same spots, the same muscles to swing that detector back and forth. So, and it really doesn't matter about weight, Craig, because it could be, a 2-pound difference is a lot on a metal detector. I mean, a huge difference as far as I'm concerned.
I think, pretty soon there's not going to be too many detectors on the market that aren't ergonomic and light.
Yeah, most of them
or
are
you
3
don't have
pounds
to-
or under. All the Quest machines are under 3 pounds. 3 pounds or under, and I think all the Equinox, the Deus, you know, using an example like the AT Pro, I think it's only 3.5 pounds, but it's the way it's distributed it on there is a little different. I think, like you said, Craig, it's going to change up. These control boxes are going to get even smaller than they are now. I know that,
Yeah.
you know, well, I'm not going to give away the company or anything, but I know they're coming out with one that's going to be smaller than the Deus. The control box is smaller, and they pack more technology into these with these bigger or better circuitry, better chips and stuff like that. They're smaller and they hold more information. They can make these control boxes a lot smaller. It's going to take a lot of the weight from it too, and it doesn't
It's
sound
like
like
that shaft that's on the, I guess on the Deus and on the Quest. It's like a square shaft with more of a composite material.
right. It doesn't have that
lighter.
wiggle in it. That wiggle like
So,
you get in
yeah,
the round shaft.
That makes a difference.
Big
They
time.
got all these new strong polymers that, that they can use that they're so much lighter.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of them are even got carbon fiber mixed with the plastic and stuff to stiffen it up.
Yeah, these are like aluminum or something along those lines on the upper shaft and the middle shaft. I think the lower shaft is some kind of a composite, but they're very lightweight. The whole machine, it doesn't even weigh over 3 pounds. I weighed it out with the 11-inch coil on the Quest Pro, and I think it came out to right at 3 pounds. It was just under 3 pounds, so that's a nice thing. A lot of the machines coming out are going to be lighter, unless you're going to a specifically professional kind of, like a GPX or I don't know. They're just heavier. They have a lot more. It's a different kind of metal detector. It's a pulse, so I'm sure they'll start making those lighter too. I mean, I can't see why they wouldn't, but there's a lot to, GPX is in a class all itself. I mean, even the way that you run this, the battery packs, the headphones, they have these extra battery packs and stuff you can get for them. You got to be into it. I mean, in Australia, I know they use them. The gold fields. They use them here in the U.S. for relic hunting and stuff. For me, it's a totally different animal. I've never really used one, so I can't really fathom. I don't know.
There's some guys I've seen in Virginia that are using them in these old sites that haven't yielded anything in years.
Right.
And what they're doing is they're listening for the iron, and they're finding they're opening up these hut sites. They're
right.
actually able to find the hut sites that way. And one guy found like a bayonet that was sticking straight up and down in the ground, about 2 feet deep, and ended up finding bottles and all kinds of stuff in that pit.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's a dang good detector to add to your arsenal. I'd love to have a GPX 5000 just because. Well, I mean, heck, I might have a use for it. These hunted out spots and stuff, and especially when I go up north, I don't mind digging iron. Big iron, I love it. Even though I might only get 10 pieces in a row that are junk, there always seems to be that good item in there. And those are pretty good odds, especially, like Craig, you said, on a Civil War site, you don't know what the heck you're going to dig as far as iron. It could be a bayonet, it could be a rifle barrel, it could be trigger guard, it could be anything. Or it could be just a bunch of square. Yeah, it could be a cannonball, or it could be a railroad spike. Okay, let's be honest. You could, or a hubcap or something. I don't know. But I mean, if you're on a producing site for many years and it just stops giving it up, or it's been hunted by so many people, heck yeah, grab that GPX and go in there. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to dig a lot of nails. The best thing that's going to happen, you're going to make a find of a lifetime. For your bucket list or whatever. I think that. If you can do it, or if you're fortunate enough to be able to do it, I don't see a problem with having 3 or 4 metal detectors. You have one for each kind of hunting you want. Maybe you get into situations where, you got to have a different kind of metal detector to get into spots. Maybe it has smaller coil on it. That's another thing too. A lot of people don't realize when you buy a new coil for your metal detector, it's almost like a different metal detector. It's not going to do everything the same as what, like if you buy White's 5.3 coil compared to the 10, double D, D2 coil. A lot of difference there. They're going to react differently. The target separation is going to be different. I think of course the D2 coil is a double D coil. Then you're dealing with the 5.3 is a concentric. So that gets into that cone shape search zone or that blade search zone. So you can change your metal detector. You change the total the way your detector works by changing the coil, as far as what it's going to find, how you're going to find it, what it's going to sound like, how it unmasks targets, what the recovery delay can be set on. So you're essentially making a new metal detector for yourself. So when I had my White's machines, I had for the Spectra, I had every coil that White sold, and I started getting into the SEF and accelerator coils and stuff. And with Minelab, I think you got Coiltech. Am I right, Craig? Coiltech has all the ones for like the GPX or whatever. They make all these aftermarket coils.
I think so.
That's not a bad option. I mean, you can't go into some of these sites, or you can. Some sites are so busy, so trashy, that if you have an 11-inch coil, you're going to fight a little bit if it doesn't have good target separation. You could go to a smaller coil, a small double D, or even a concentric coil if they make them for your detector, to hunt these trashier sites to get in between the targets and unmask targets that you couldn't get to with the great big coil, or the standard stock coil, whatever you want to call it. Change it up a little bit and see what the results are. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. I've dug some, and don't go by. Obviously a smaller coil is not going to get as deep most of the time. But I've had instances where I've dug a 15-inch nickel with a 5.3, and it was a V nickel. And I don't know why it just hit it. I hit it just perfectly at the, it must have been at the end of the cone shape at the bottom, and bam, I got it. I couldn't believe it. But, you got to be, with the smaller coils, the shooter coils, be methodical. You're working slow. You're not working at a, like a jackrabbit running through a, property. You're working slower. You want to get in between targets. You want to unmask targets. You want to make sure that you're, getting everything off the property you can. And, you need to use a smaller coil once in a while. I go to the 7x9 on the Bliss tool for that reason. And, Craig's property is a perfect example. You've been over it with the 15-inch coil and the 11-inch coil. I come in there with the 7x9. He never had it in there, and I found a bullet right there in his front yard. And his yard was not that big.
Yeah.
It's just a change in, really it's a major change on a metal detector to change coils. Your settings are going to be a little bit different. You might have to run your sensitivity a little lower or higher depending on the detector you're using. So I guess I say if you put a smaller coil on and you go out there and you just start, you get all this, it's weird. It's not acting like, just understand that you might need to change your settings a little bit. Not run so much gain, not run so much sensitivity. Because remember, you're dealing with a smaller coil, a smaller area. So, I see a lot of, in the past, a lot of guys fussing about certain coils on any given machine, doesn't matter, but they're not realizing they're not using it differently. They're trying to use that coil the same as they would the normal coil. And you just can't go into it. It's like using two different metal detectors. So, just a little bit of advice. I don't know. If it helps you out, great. So, I only can tell them what I know.
In the old days, most of the detectors would come like with a stock 8 or 9 inch.
8 or 9, yeah. Now they're coming stock with 11s.
I'd always want it 10, 10 and a half, 11 inch.
Yep.
That's what I relic on. I always, relic on it with the biggest coil I could get for them usually.
Well, it makes sense too. You're relic hunting too.
In the back, I remember though, they had these aftermarket coils back in the old days, like 15-inch coils. They didn't even get nearly the depth that the stock ones did. They were so bad, some of them.
Well, like Bliss tool. I'll tell you guys, you could probably find the videos somewhere. There's a 24-inch double D coil for the Bliss tool. They're not in production, but there's been several made. Ahmed made several of them. They were in one of his first videos, or when he was doing a trade show or something like that. But guys, I'll be honest with you. 15-inch coil. I don't even want to bury targets for a test with a 15-inch coil. If I can hit a.
Well, how about digging the hole?
Well, that's what I mean. I dug was it 3 foot down on a silver dollar with an 11-inch coil, and I'm getting it. Do I really want to dig a 4-foot hole? And with a 24-inch coil, by God, it probably goes down 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot. I don't know on a silver dollar. I have no idea, but it was just so. I'd use it in the gold field maybe, because that's one thing about the bliss tool. The big coils for the bliss tool. It doesn't matter if it's sitting on like an inch down in the ground, a dime at an inch down in the ground, or a dime at 16 inches down. It's gonna hit it. Where I've had other detectors where the bigger the coil is, I'm missing the shallower, smaller stuff, and getting stuff that's deep. But bliss tool, I haven't had that problem. But yeah, you can imagine if you got a signal with a 24-inch coil and it was a whisper tone. My God, man, you'd be digging your butt off. I've never wanted to dig quite that big unless I'm looking for a buried treasure, literally. I mean, I don't think it's even needed. I think it was too much. That's why he didn't do it. That's what he told me. It was just too big, and the targets you're going to get, it'd be a specialty coil. I'd like to get one just to have one, but, I don't think he even has, he probably has some that he made before, but, and the thing too, with his coils, they're hand done. They're hand woven, whatever. They have a machine, it's manual machine. The only thing that's automated would be actually the form on the coils for the bliss tool. We'll call it a light, plastic mold, if you will. And they're actually epoxy resin, where a lot of the companies are using a polymer. Our coil, the coils for the bliss tool are extremely durable. You don't need coil covers or anything, but a lot of the companies that make them here, you have to buy a coil cover for the coils. I don't know if the newest ones, but like the whites, unless you want to rip up your coil a lot, you put a coil cover on there, and even the coil cover is made of a lighter polymer, so you'll get scratches across there from rocks or aluminum can slaw or whatever. And over time, if you're an avid metal detectorist, you definitely want a coil cover on that coil, so you don't ruin it. I mean, I've ruined coils before, and that's one thing. The first things that impressed me about the bliss tool was that God, Craig, you have yours. How many scratches do you have that you can run your fingernail over and catch with your fingernail? Probably not many, because I don't have
Hardly
any.
Any. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a V2 I think it came out in 2010 or something like that. The model, the one I have. You could tell it was used, but I don't think there's maybe one scratch in that thing, and I don't know what the heck they run it over with, but I could just barely catch my fingernail in it. And that's, it took a lot to do that. So, your coils, depending on which metal detector you have, do some reading on, go to some forums and see the guy, look at the posts the guys have made that own the detector. And, some of them you can get away with not using a coil cover. Other ones, and they're not that expensive. I think I paid not even $8 for mine for whites. Maybe I'm wrong on that. It's been a while. But, if it can get you an extra year use out of your detector or longer. But the only thing I'll tell you, if you put a coil cover on, and I don't care where you hunt, whether it's a beach or inland or whatever else, every so often, take that coil cover off and clean that coil cover, because I'll guarantee you're going to find some kind of sand, dirt, mineralization, something, and it will eventually mess you up metal detecting. Your machine will start falsing and acting stupid. Pull that coil cover off, and you're bound to find something in there dirt-wise. I know some guys that have actually sealed theirs on with silicone. I don't suggest that. What I suggest doing, and this will help you out in the long run, is get yourself some like 50-pound test line. And the trick I learned to do is loosely tie the fishing line around the coil cover, around one edge of it. And when you click it onto the coil itself and they snap into place, sometimes they're really difficult to get off of there to clean. By having that fishing line right there, and you'll figure it out as you do it. But you could pull on that to get this coil started, the coil cover to start coming off, to give you a link, a point to get it loose so you can pull off the rest of it. And be gentle.
Yeah.
Don't wrestle that thing, and don't use a screwdriver. God, I saw a guy use a screwdriver and punched a hole through the side of the coil, getting in between the coil cover and the coil, and pried it. Don't, try to be gentle with this. Is electronics, and these are they're sensitive to that kind of abuse, or whatever you want to call it. You don't want to damage your coil or your coil cable or anything like that. I mean, you're pretty much going to have to buy a new coil essentially, unless somebody's good enough to fix them. I don't even mess with coils really. I'll tune them. That's all I'll do with ours. But like, whites, I have a problem out of my D2 coil all the time. My detector started acting up a lot, and I sent them the detector, like they told me to. They replaced the D2 coil. They said it was out of null. What caused that, I don't know. It happened twice to me, but they always replaced it and never charged me. So, if you have one of those D2 coils for White's machine, if it's an older machine or you bought it on eBay or whatever, if you don't think it's acting right, you call them. I mean, you can explain what it's doing. They're going to try to go through some things it could be. But eventually, if it's still not working right, they're going to tell you to send a machine in. And they've always been good with me and everybody else I've talked to as far as getting the machines back in a timely fashion and everything. It's worth doing that. The other thing is, too, if your detectors start acting weird, like falsing a lot, make sure the batteries are newer or whatever good. The Spectra was like that. If it got down to 9 volts, it started falsing and acting stupid. You put brand new batteries in there and bam, oh, wow, it works now. Blistles, any metal detector, usually when it gets low on voltage, will start acting up. I don't know about all of them, but every one I've ever owned has done that. So these are quick little fixes.
Yeah, I had a Toltec 100 at Tesoro, and that used to start chattering.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to. It had a battery check, but I didn't even have to look at it. I knew it was, needed new batteries. But
I'm really light.
I love these. I love these LiPo batteries, though. That you don't have to buy batteries, anymore. I probably spent over $1,000 over the years with batteries alone.
Yeah,
I don't even know how much.
I'm trying to find this show here real quick for you guys. It was about batteries, and it was a documentary, and they were talking about LiPo batteries and why they're so dangerous. It's called it's a Nova show. It's called Search for the Super Battery. It's on Netflix. I'm sure you can find it other places. I think it's under a documentary. Very interesting show, guys. And they had why they were trying to use the lithium batteries and everything, what they did, why they were exploding at first. But there's a guy on here that's kind of an inventor, I guess. He developed a battery using plastic inside instead of well, you're not going to get it anyways unless you watch the show. But anyways, he used a different kind of material inside of the battery. And how they were doing on YouTube, Craig, and taking a nail and spiking it through a cell phone battery and having it blow up and fizzle and everything. Mm-hmm. They did the same thing with this thing. They drove nails into it, didn't make a spark, didn't affect. It was still putting power out, like lighting up the light bulb and everything. They took a pair of scissors and started cutting pieces of it off, cutting it off, literally. And the thing was still working, and it got down to a really small piece. But if you did that with a regular battery, you'd blow yourself up or burn yourself or something. It'd be dangerous. Don't ever try. Disclaimer, put it that way. But yeah, it's called.
Yeah, I heard years ago that some of the lithium batteries had they'd get like some kind of metal particles mixed in it, and over time they would heat those particles up.
I can't remember the product they use. I want to say it's I'm just going to say iron, but it's not iron. On one side for the positive side, and the negative side was the lithium. And the lithium would travel to the positive, or the negative would travel to the positive to create the charge, or whatever the power of the battery. But what the problem was is as the negative was just sending these particles or these atoms or whatever it is through to the positive side, it was building and collecting on the negative towards the positive point of the battery, inside the battery. And when it got to that point and the negative actually corroded enough or had enough of that buildup, it would touch the positive side, and that's when the battery would, pop or explode or whatever else. So they had to come up with a different partition between the negative and positive side. With this one that they're doing here on this Nova show, Search for the Super Battery, he's eliminated that problem totally. And these things are flat, Craig. This is like it's like maybe four.
Oh, they're probably using graphene on those now.
Yeah, they never really. It's some other new product, but it's more of a polymer, is what he said. Plastic.
Yeah.
Some kind of a plastic.
Huh.
But it's probably mixed with
I know
what you're talking
they're
about.
using like this graphite. It's called graphene.
Uh-huh.
It's actually like a soot, and it forms a layer, one molecule thick.
Mm-hmm. Well, these things are so small, but they hold so much charge. That's always been a problem with batteries. You know, you don't have enough charge to go as far. This thing was actually a pretty neat show, only because they were going into the detail about this stuff. But yeah, they could put these things in cell phones, they could put these things in drones, and they're lightweight. They hold their charge longer, and they're safe. They're not going to, you know, they talk about all these LiPo batteries blowing up. Usually, even on their vape batteries, you were talking about the 18650s that you use in most vape, e-cigarettes, whatever you want to call them. You know, they say, oh, they'll blow up and everything. They have a little circuit board on the top of the positive side. There's like a little ring right there. And if you leave that on there, most of the time you don't have a problem unless you're running a mechanical mod where the button sticks or you push the button in and it's keeping constant contact. That's where those people start having them blow up in their pockets and stuff. If they're running a variable voltage, it has a safety built into the mod number one, the contraption, number one, that stops it from doing that. But also the battery itself, that's why they say it's so important to make sure that you don't have any cuts or rips in the covering over this 18650 batteries, and that the tops of them aren't damaged because they're designed not to blow up. You know, I mean, they've done that for a reason. But when you run the mechanical modification for an e-cigarette, you're running essentially straight power to that coil. There's no stopping it. You know, I mean, once you push it on, and people were careful. Like, there was one guy in a convenience store, he had his mod in his front pocket. And yeah, the thing lit his pants on fire and everything, but it probably keyed up and started. And if they don't have a good switch on them, some of them run magnets and everything else, you can actually blow that battery up or fizzle it out, have it smoke a lot. It's going to burn you one way or another if it's in your pocket. But, you know, with these new batteries, they're safer. They can put these, the way the guy was talking, you can line these things up and you can actually make a car battery that's more stronger, gets more distance and everything. But it's not in that stage yet. But it's definitely something to watch for. But, man, Craig, it's a 10:15 already. Holy cow. I just looked up at the clock. Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to keep us on for a 3-hour show. But at any rate, yeah, the name of that show is Novus Search for the Super Battery. It's on Netflix. Look it up and just look. I mean, most of it probably wouldn't apply to most of us, but it was interesting about the newer stuff they're coming up with and why the older stuff was messing up. It gives you an idea of what we're dealing with in all this new stuff that's coming out. I mean, like the Equinox, I think the Equinox, isn't that rechargeable, Craig? I think it is. Mm-hmm. Well, like the Quest is rechargeable too.
I think it has a magnetic charger on it.
Yeah, I know the Quest does too. The Quest Pro has a magnetic charger. I like that idea. They did a good job, all those companies did, because you can knock. How many times have you tripped over the charging cord, Craig? It's sticking out and you yank your machine and knock it on the ground or pull the thing out of the wall. With those magnet ones, you can just bump those things. They'll come right off. I mean, they're not going to hurt it. Mm-hmm. So it's good addition. My MacBook Pro has one. I love the thing. But I've never seen a metal detector until I think it's the Equinox and the Quest both have it. It just sticks right on the back of the control box, or on the front of it actually. But it just sticks right on there, so it makes it pretty easy. You don't have to screw anything in like the bliss tool. You have to screw the charger cord into the back of the bliss tool, and then you got to plug it into the wall, and you got to make sure you unplug it right and all this stuff, just to prevent any kind of possibility of any kind of damage. And with the Quest, and I think the Equinox too, I just don't own one to know for sure, but yeah, it's a good option. Those magnet chargers are great. And that thing doesn't have a cover on it either, Craig. I take that thing into the water, it doesn't do anything because it's not making that connection. I guess that's why they have it set up like that. But we do have to get off here, guys. I didn't mean to keep everybody on here so long. I just got to talking again. You know how I am. So, but at any rate, Craig, we'll talk again on Thursday night, and we're on every Thursday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Be sure to check out the other shows on Spreaker.com, like Relics Radio, Beyond Sight and Sound. You have Relic Roundup and History Seekers and All Metal Mode. Those are just the few that I do. I think there might be a couple more on there, Craig. I haven't looked lately. But they have all kinds of different crafting shows. And go ahead.
Was it
Oh,
all
global.
mentioned all metal mode?
Yeah, all metal, but global or global metal detecting. I'm sorry, I'm messing up his name now. They have they have a show on there. They've
They
been
don't
on
have
there long.
Yeah, but they just do a podcast. I don't think they're live, are
Yeah,
they?
it's every. I think it puts it out every 2 weeks or something like that. But he's really great too. He's been on our show too, called in and everything. The reason they do it that way is because they're around the world. I mean, I think he's in Germany. The other guy's in the
Yeah,
U.S.
one's in
and,
Germany.
yeah,
I think one's in Canada or something.
something like that. And
Or
they have to do the
US.
show and,
Yeah.
and do it ahead of time, and then they put it out. It's a lot of work. I have my hats off to him because trying to edit a audio and get it right. I mean, that's some talent right there because I don't have that kind of patience at all. But yeah, they do a show also. There's also everything from vaping to gardening to carpentry. There's a show on Spreaker about it. So go through there and check and make sure you like and follow these shows if you do like and follow, want to follow them. It just shows them that you're listening. They know people are tuning in. And, it's always nice to know that people are listening to you a little bit. So, at any rate, guys, we'll catch you on Thursday night. And hopefully Craig and I get out there and start doing some hunting. Craig has a few sites, and I have some more testing I want to do. So we'll talk then. You go. In the meantime, you guys get out there, keep digging, and God bless.